Hey everyone, it's Andrew with the Market Mindset. A little reaction video here. I couldn't help but to not watch this, share this, comment. This is Jared Bernstein, Biden's chief economic advisor. Uh, this, many of you will have seen. I literally thought it was a deep fake, and I sent it to people too after I'd researched and found out that it was real. They swore this is fake, this isn't true, it's fake news. Andrew, stop sharing this. It took a while to convince them that this actually was an interview that Jared did. And let's just get into it, and we'll give a bit of context.
The U.S. government can't go bankrupt because we can print our own money.
It obviously begs the question, why exactly are we borrowing in a currency that we print ourselves? I'm waiting for someone to stand up and say, why do we borrow our own currency in the first place?
Like you said, they print the dollar. So why does the government even borrow?
Well, again, some of this stuff gets, some of the language that some of the language and concepts are just confusing.
Okay, let's pause it right there. This is already, you can see where this is going. This is very awkward. And I don't want to bore everyone about the role of the Federal Reserve or economics. The Federal Reserve printing money. It's a private bank. It's not federal. I know that they try to put the nuance in of that. Well, yes, it's chartered banks that own shares, and then there's the 12 regional banks that are also private. But there is an oversight of Congress. The heads of the Fed generally tend to be Goldman Sachs, J.P. Morgan, the same people that ran all the investment banks go on to the privately held Fed. So it is an interesting system that they have here. And yes, the US currently owns the printing press. So they can print money. And if he had said, we can print money and we also have the largest arms forces and we enforce that money, I would say to some degree, what he's saying is somewhat true, but it also isn't, because the nuances of trade balances and deficits and between the whole world comes into play. Anyone who just prints money, no matter what, eventually runs into inflation. And he mentioned modern monetary theory, MMT. This is what you see out of progressive countries or extreme far left. It's the idea that you can print money and pay for social good. And that sounds like that would be a nice thing to do. It never works. It hasn't worked when they've tried it before, didn't work in Greece, didn't work in South America, and we're seeing the failure in Canada specifically and currently in the US. Because at the end of the day, you print the money and you quote unquote invest it. If you invest it into a social good, it's hard to get any kind of monetary feedback or results from that. But when you invest it on behalf of the people, say into green technology, you have to ask yourself, what was the return on that benefit? But let's just, once again, we don't want to get into the weeds about MMT. There's enough out there that kind of blows MMT out of the water that it's not really a serious economic theory. We'll get a lot of feedback for that. I don't think it holds any water, but that's beyond the point. Let's just get back into this.
The government definitely prints money, and it definitely lends that money, which is why the government definitely prints money, and then it lends that money by selling bonds. Is that what they do? They sell bonds. Yeah, they sell bonds, right? Because they sell bonds and people buy the bonds and lend them the money. Yeah. So a lot of times, at least to my ear with MMT, the language and the concepts can be kind of unnecessarily confusing, but there is no question that the government prints money.
Let's pause there. They can be necessarily confusing. And I don't pretend that I've got a PhD in economics. I did study economics in university. Poor Jared Bernstein didn't study economics at all. And I'm not bashing him, but it begs the question, why is the chief economics advisor someone who doesn't hold an economics degree? This is shocking. He did get his education was Manhattan School of Music, as well as Columbia University, where I believe he got a social work degree. Now, he has had tons of involvement in Economic Policy Institute, in lots of policy. I'm a big fan that, yes, you can learn on the job, but learning on the job and applying policy, which is more a political degree or international politics or civics, that's very different than an economics degree. They're not the same at all. They could go hand in hand, and actually, in fact, they would work well hand in hand. And once again, if there was someone, he was not as quite a senior role, okay. But if you're a senior person, uh, isn't even an academic, didn't come from an investment bank or somewhere where they had a good stronghold of understanding of finance and the markets, this could explain why the economy is falling apart. It certainly explains in Canada why it is. And our Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, saying that he has no interest in monetary policy. This explains what's happening out there. It's tough because immediately people say, I don't want to go to those money grubbers, the capitalists and all this kind of stuff. And you go, listen, I get it. There's extreme greed and capitalism going on right now. When you're talking about FANG or the Magnificent Seven, the top 0.001%, it's over the top. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't have financial literacy. And unfortunately, what we're dealing with right now is no financial literacy. Let's get back to the video.
And then it uses that money to, yeah, I guess I can't really talk. I don't get it. I don't know what they're talking about. Cause it's like the government clearly prints money. It does it all the time, and it clearly borrows. Otherwise we wouldn't be having this debt and deficit conversation. So I don't think there's anything confusing there.
That was very confusing. And once again, I don't want to pick on the poor guy because he's out of his depth. Now, that being said, he has written quite a few policy with the infamous Paul Krugman, Nobel laureate, who's big into this progressive idea that you can print money and pay for social good. It's really started in 2010. And I think when we look back in history, it's going to be one of the key drivers of the downfall of the economy and why we need restructuring. You can't just continuously print money. I mean, if the U.S. was pursuing an imperialist doctrine where they were printing money and then going to war as much as possible, which one might argue they're trying to do, and overtaking land, overtaking other nations and countries, okay, you could make the case that that's where the money is being spent. But that's not exactly what's happening. In any event, it's very complex. It is complex and it is nuanced, but it's not that hard if you just kind of Googled MMT and get some results back. Understanding the nuances of how the Fed works and money flows between banks and selling debt. I mean, it brings up the question, if you could just print money, why are they collecting tax? They are, because it's all interconnected and one piece does affect the next. And we have these trade balances with other federal reserves in other countries. And this all has to have a balance. Otherwise, there are arbitrage opportunities. In any event, that's kind of getting in the weeds and a little bit boring. This was a highlight of what we're dealing with in this clown world that we're facing. And people are starting to wake up and see that things just don't seem right. And maybe we don't have our best looking out for our best interest.